The storm clouds over South Africa's political landscape thickened this week following explosive allegations that President Cyril Ramaphosa and senior African National Congress (ANC) officials actively moved to suppress a damning report on corruption within the party. The report, described by insiders as politically lethal, was allegedly buried deep in closed ANC committee discussions, never reaching the public despite its far-reaching implications for the country's future governance. According to leaked information from within Luthuli House, the report was commissioned by an independent policy review panel, tasked with assessing the levels of corruption and maladministration plaguing both government departments and ANC-linked entities. What they uncovered, sources claim, was far more damaging than anyone anticipated: a sprawling web of kickbacks, tender fraud, nepotism, and illicit foreign donations connected to high-ranking ANC members. Instead of acting on the findings, President Ramaphosa and a circle of trusted allies within the ANC reportedly convened a series of private meetings where the report was deliberately sidelined. The justification, as one official confided under condition of anonymity, was to protect the movement's image and prevent opposition parties from weaponizing the information ahead of the 2026 elections. Yet critics argue this was less about protecting the ANC's image and more about shielding individuals whose names appeared prominently in the report. Among those implicated were senior ministers, provincial premiers, and long-serving party stalwarts, many of whom are considered untouchable within the ANC's ranks. Civil society watchdogs, however, are now demanding answers. The Organization for Transparency in Governance, OTG, blasted the ANC for what it called a calculated betrayal of the people's trust. Their spokesperson declared, "The suppression of this report is not just a matter of party politics, it is an obstruction of accountability and an insult to every South African who endures the daily consequences of corruption." The scandal arrives at a particularly fragile moment for Ramaphosa, who has already been fending off criticism over his cautious approach to rooting out corruption within his party. Since taking office, he has portrayed himself as a reformer determined to cleanse the ANC of the rot left by state capture under Jacob Zuma's administration. However, his critics say the president's promises have often rung hollow, with decisive action repeatedly delayed or watered down to avoid fracturing the ANC's internal unity. This latest revelation could deepen doubts about Ramaphosa's credibility as an anti-corruption crusader. Some ANC insiders believe that if the report were to become public, it could trigger unprecedented resignations and disciplinary hearings, something the president is said to fear would splinter the party beyond repair. Others suspect that the suppression was also tied to the president's own survival, as the report may contain uncomfortable references to individuals within his inner circle. Opposition parties have wasted no time seizing on the story. The Democratic Alliance, DA, called for an urgent parliamentary inquiry, arguing that the ANC is treating South Africa like a private fiefdom, hiding information that belongs to the people. Meanwhile, the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, accused Ramaphosa of hypocrisy, labeling him a president who campaigns on clean governance while secretly bearing evidence of corruption. The ANC's communications team has tried to deflect, insisting the report was merely preliminary and lacked sufficient evidence to be released publicly. But leaked extracts suggest otherwise. Specific contracts, dates, and payments were allegedly recorded in detail, raising questions about how much of the ANC's denial can be trusted. As pressure mounts, civil society groups are threatening legal action to force the publication of the report. Analysts warn that if it surfaces through leaks rather than official channels, the fallout could be even more catastrophic for the ruling party. Not only could it undermine Ramaphosa's bid for re-election in 2026, but it could also fuel growing public anger at a time when unemployment, service delivery failures, and rising inequality have already eroded faith in the ANC. For now, South Africans are left in the dark about the full contents of the suppressed report. What is clear, however, is that the perception of secrecy and cover-up is compounding the sense of betrayal many citizens feel toward their leaders. With each passing day, the ANC risks appearing less like a liberation movement committed to democratic values and more like a political machine determined to preserve power at any cost, even if it means hiding the truth. If Ramaphosa cannot find the courage to release the report and confront the corruption within his party, history may remember him not as the leader who saved the ANC, but as the president who chose silence over integrity when the nation needed accountability the most.